Hello, historians, and welcome to Purple Shirt History. Today, we'll begin our series of videos on the paper 2 questions. The first one we'll do is the message question. I was looking around YouTube, and there are a lot of videos on message questions, so this will be the only one I do on it. I'd like to actually give a shout out and recommend 2 other channels from fellow history teachers that have a lot of message questions with visual sources. One of them is Mr. Alsop's History, which I have watched when I became a history teacher many years ago. And the other one is by a guy named Jamie Portman. So he's done a number of really good videos on message questions. So as I'm only going to do one message question, if you'd like more, you can go check their channel out and learn more visual sources and how they've interpreted them. If you find this video useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. So off we go to the message question. So for source analysis questions, they're going to determine if you can understand written and visual sources. Visual sources are mainly cartoons, but there can be pictures. Written sources could be journal entries, could be newspaper articles, could be secret correspondence between government officials, lots of different types of sources. You'll need to interpret them and see the point of view of those people, and you're going to need to evaluate them to see how these sources either agree or disagree with the question that's going to be asked in your paper 2. So here's the example for you. I saw a cartoon titled Overweighted. It's a British cartoon from 1919. It has President Woodrow Wilson of the US. It has a League of Nations as represented by a big olive branch, and it has the dove of peace. Peace in general in the world. So Wilson says, "Here's your olive branch, now get busy." And the dove says, "Of course, I want to please everybody, but isn't it a bit thick?" Now look at each one of those elements of the cartoon. Wilson seems very eager to give the League of Nations olive branch to this bird, but can that bird handle it? It looks pretty thick, as the bird says, and the beak of the bird, I don't know if it could handle it. So this is kind of a cartoon that is a bit questioning the abilities of the League of Nations, despite Wilson's enthusiasm for the League. And to help you prepare for these message questions, I'm going to teach you an acronym called SAD parts. It means, first, source. So we saw this is a British source from probably a British newspaper or magazine. The author is from the UK, as we saw. The date is 1919. So what is the purpose of this source? Again, it's a bit skeptical. It's not necessarily saying the League is bad or good or making any value judgment on the League, but it's going to have a very hard job to have world peace with this brand new organization. Who is this source supposed to try to convince? The public in the UK. Is it reliable? I would say it's fairly reliable because it's true. It was a huge job for a brand new organization to keep peace. And what does it teach us? Well, despite all the enthusiasm and the good feeling and the goodwill that the League was going to have, could it actually do it? There was a lot of big tasks ahead for the League, and we're going to see that it did do some good work, but ultimately the League of Nations, in less than 20 years, will fail. So here we have a generic mark scheme for a message question. What is the cartoonist's message? Explain your answer using details of the source and your knowledge. So first things first, just state the obvious. So you have your SAD parts, so you've done your prep, like you did T-charts for part C, you've done your SAD parts for this paper 2 message question. Now you have a lot of details that you can add into a P.E.E.L paragraph. So that's right, the P.E.E.L paragraph is going to be used, just like in paper 1. You're going to use your point, you're going to use the SAD parts as the evidence, and then your explanation, you're going to say how this information addresses to how the cartoonist was trying to get a message across. I think that we'll skip level 0 because that's obviously a 0. Level 1, surface description of cartoon / writing about the cartoon but no message. This is just saying there's a man in the picture and there's a bird in the picture and there's a stick in the picture. That would be good enough for 1 mark, and that would be probably pretty generous, right? So the surface description is not going to get you marks because there's no analysis, really. This is the most dangerous thing here, is the level 2 misinterpretation. If you are just completely off the mark with what you think the source and the cartoonist are trying to say, so you can say like, Wilson looks incredibly angry at the bird and he's trying to kill the bird or something like that. That would not get you anything more than a 2. So Wilson wants the bird of peace to flourish and, take the mantle of peace. But if you were to say something that's just not anywhere close to the answer in terms of just misinterpreting the source, that could be a big problem. So I tell my students, just try to avoid misinterpretations. Really look at the source carefully so you don't get knocked all the way down to a level 2, which can really hurt your paper. Level 3, explains valid sub-messages or unsupported point of view. So 3 to 5, just a kind of disorganized number of facts that are true, are relevant, but not in any kind of structure, not following that P.E.E.L. Level 4 explains the big message, right? So the big message that we have was, there was skepticism about whether the league could handle all of these massive problems that go into trying to keep world peace. Did it have the capacity? Did it have the ability to do that? So that's the big message. And the last bit to get you the full marks is to explain the cartoonist point of view. So kind of your conclusion sentence, I like to see it is, in conclusion, the cartoonist point of view was, and then have your conclusion sentence. So start off by directly answering the question. You can say the cartoonist message is, and then have your analysis. And then at the very end, like I said, in the Part C video, go full circle, bring it all back to your conclusion and say, in conclusion, the cartoonist message is, and then include your answer. So that's the generic mark scheme for the source's message question.